Hi, it's Paul Antonelli here with another episode of the Ideal Business Podcast. Today I'm going to talk about something quite interesting. What I wanted to do, for those of you who know me, know that I love doing a lot of adventure stuff. I've done a lot of four-wheel driving and camping across most of Australia, most of the deserts and most of the locations. And I was reflecting on it the other day, and I'm trying to understand why it is that I love that sort of stuff. And I worked out there's a lot of analogies between the type of adventure and outback activity, camping that I do, and business. So just going to sort of share some insights that I had. And what sort of prompted it was a couple of days ago, it was only 2 days ago, we went to I'm in the Northern Territory at the moment. So at the moment, this podcast is taking place from Northern Territory at a place called Berry Springs, Mataraka Springs. And before that, we were up at a place called Litchfield National Park. And there's a set of falls called Surprise Creek Falls on a four-wheel drive track. And when we went into the track at night, we went down beautiful falls. If you've never been there, if you can get access to it, it's stunning. And went into the falls, came back out, and then on the camping trailer, I've got a camping trailer, a small teardrop. It had actually had a puncture. It wasn't actually a puncture in the traditional sense. There was some damage to the sidewall of the tyre, and so I said no dramas. I just jacked it up, and in the morning I had a spare which I hadn't used before. And to understand, I've been travelling for 3 months, done 12,000 k's, and that's the first puncture that I'd actually had on that trailer. So I got up in the morning, changed the tyre, didn't take long. We packed up and we took off. And this is a brand new tyre that I'd put on, and about 1 kilometre down the track, I asked my wife if she'd close some of the vents to keep the dust out, and she said, oh no, I hadn't done that. So I got out of the car to go and close the vents in the camper, and I noticed a stake, a twig sticking out of the side of the tyre. Now, it was no bigger than my finger, about this big, probably that same length. And for some reason, the angle, the tyre drove into it, and it actually punched straight through the sidewall. So now I'm in a situation where it's not totally remote, but it's out in the middle of, it's in a bush track and a four-wheel drive track. I've got no spare. And so, I went back and I had to come up with improvise a solution, I guess. And I went through and I plugged it and put some patches on it, did a range of things. And I wasn't really sure, to be honest, how far we'd go. Some of it fell off, but we managed to drive almost 350 kilometres with a plug repair in the sidewall of this tyre, which is quite amazing. Tomorrow I'll be replacing those tyres. So when I look at that, it's an interesting thing because I've done a lot of this outback adventure stuff, and having been in business 30 years, there's a lot of parallels. When I go out and do this outback stuff, I head into remote locations. I've been into some of the most remote locations in Australia, and I don't really know what to expect. If I haven't been there before, I don't know what to expect. I don't know what's ahead. I can't tell what's going to happen from a weather condition perspective. If there's going to be some animals that I've got to contend with, is there some issues with the vehicle? I don't know. These are unknowns. All I can do is be prepared for any of these events that may take place. So it's not really what ends up happening. It's being in a position where you're confident enough that you can handle it and deal with it and get yourself out of it. And so when you're doing this sort of outback stuff, if you haven't done it before, you need to have, plenty of fuel, plenty of water, obviously always carrying water, fuel, all the recovery gear to get your vehicle out, a whole bunch of tools. I carry a drill, spare equipment, nuts and bolts, a whole range of things. So after having been doing this for many years, I'm very confident that no matter what comes my way, I can work out a solution. And even if it's a temporary solution, I can work out a solution to move forward and get out of that situation. And business is very much a similar sort of a landscape. What we in business, we don't know what's coming around the corner. We don't know what can happen tomorrow, what's going to happen in 3 months' time, 6 months, things that are outside our control. What you can do, though, in business is have the tools, have the recovery gear, have the plan to manage the situation so that you are confident that no matter what comes your way, you can deal with it. The reason that's important, business is an adventure. And the reason it's important to have that sort of an approach is that, when I do this outback travel, this camping, this remote camping, this four-wheel driving, if I didn't have that, I'd be more cautious about where I'd go, which tracks I'd go down. I'd probably want to know or have previous information about particular locations so that there's more knowns, so that there's less unknowns or things that pop up that surprise me. I don't really like doing that. Part of the joy or the thrill of this type of adventure travel is the fact that it's unknown. I don't know what to expect. I don't know what's around the next corner. I don't know if there's a river crossing, if there's water in it. I don't know those things. And that's what actually makes it a lot more fun. But it might be a little bit more stressful or might take the edge off it a little bit if I didn't know I could get myself out of any situation that arose. And so business is very much the same thing. If you really want to push the boundaries in your business and you really want to push the boundaries, do some stuff, be innovative, do things that maybe other people haven't done. And all these things involve a level of risk, a level of the unknown. And if it's something that you haven't done before, you could probably say that there's an element of surprise, the unexpected. And so if you like pushing that edge in your business, which is often where the sweet spot is and where you can really experience some growth in your business, then it's important to have some of these tools in place that give you the confidence and also the competence, and the tools are pretty critical to be able to handle whatever comes your way in business. And so one of the things that we do when we work with clients to help them build their ideal business is to provide a range of tools that do just that. If something comes your way and you're not sure how to deal with it and you don't have a way of managing it, then you can sort of get stuck and you can sort of go, this is an awkward situation to be in. Like with a lot of the camping and four-wheel driving, I've never not been able to get out. Sometimes I think the longest one was an overnighter where I had to actually camp in situ and then get up in the morning, give it another go. It took me almost 7 or 8 hours to get out. I was on my own in an isolated wetland area, but I can always get out. Just takes time. It's a whole bunch of tools. It's not just having the tools. It's also knowing when to apply which particular tool and how to use these tools, which is actually really, really important. And so the only way that I have been four-wheel driving for many, many years, and the only way that I found I could develop that expertise and experience is by doing it, by getting stuck in one location. How does a winch work, a hand winch? How does an air exhaust jack work? What's the best way to play with tire pressures? How do you get yourself out of mud situations? We've done crazy stuff, buried tires, attacked as anchors, all sorts of things. But we can have the gear, we can have the tools, but the only way to have a higher level of confidence and competence in relation to these tools is to actually have use and have practice. And it's practice in real situations. So business is really similar. In order to, the things, and in a risk episode, I sort of talk about the things that can wrong. You can have cash flow issues, regulation to take place. At the moment, we've got a pandemic going on. You can have things relating to employment, all sorts of things that can occur in business. And what we sort of do with clients is we look at having tools that you put in place. You get competent at using them and you use them continually. And it gives you this confidence, this underlying confidence that no matter what comes your way, you've got a way of handling it, managing it, and getting out of that situation and improving the situation that you're in. And so some of these tools are, for example, a tool, we call it financial stability. for managing your cash, which is really important. We have a tool that talks about, we have a way of tracking your statistics, which is really important as a dashboard. We have these condition formulas, which no matter what takes place, there's a formula to apply, which can help you develop a solution for a particular issue. You may have a situation relating to managing key staff members. So we have tools in place which you can implement that can help you do that sort of process as well. So it is one of the things, and so I find that I love getting out there, finding remote locations where there's very few people. Typically these locations they're obviously people have been there, but they're off the beaten track. They're spectacular, amazing. Stars are amazing at night. The sunsets are spectacular. Part of what I love is being in these remote locations where there might not be another person for 300, 400, 500 kilometres, which you can do that in Australia. Probably a lot of places in the world that you can't. But what I love over the years, there was a lot of times where I wouldn't push. When I started doing this camping and this four-wheel driving and this adventure activity, I wouldn't quite push it because I didn't have that confidence and that competence, which is sort of what happens when you start out in this path. You go, well, what if I ran out of fuel? How would I deal with it? What if you come to a track and I'm unable to go forward and I can't actually go back? When you're towing a small camping trailer, it's very hard to reverse it in some locations. Sometimes you can't. What if I run out of, sometimes you can sort of get stuck, and I've been stuck in really soft sand locations where it's been quite difficult to get out, and I'd had to actually almost use every tool in the bag, the exhaust jack, reduced tyre pressure. We've got these things called maxi tracks, get the winch out. And so it's sometimes not just one tool, it's actually one tool won't do it on its own. It's knowing how these tools can dovetail together to give you the outcome that you need in order to be able to get the resolution that you're after. And so it's been, and it comes with experience, obviously. And with that experience, you gain confidence and gain competence. The more confidence and the competence you gain, you're more willing to push the edges a little bit, and knowing that you can deal with it by having things in place to deal with these unknowns. Excuse me. So I think it's a really powerful analogy to consider that if you want to really innovate, really push the edges, do things that maybe aren't normal in your industry, in your line of business, have these backdrops, they're tools, they're safety nets in place that will enable you to deal with things no matter what they are. And even if you're initiating things yourself, they're not external forces, you still want to know that you can handle it. The worst thing we can lack as an entrepreneur is a tool bag with these tools, and how you structure your business up, how you organize your business, having the right tools in place, making sure your team and yourself are trained around the use and application of these tools, and knowing when these tools can be used in a complementary sense is important. And that's been a key lesson for me with so much of the adventure activity that I've done. Whether it's been all through. Australia's a massive country. In the last, at the moment in NT, I've done 12,000 Ks in the last 3 months. About half of that in quite remote locations, off-road. And so had lots of mishaps and things go wrong. Broke the drawbar on the trailer, had the brakes fall off. Had those 2 punches on the camping trail, all sorts of things. But at the end of the day, I was confident that I could come up with, even if it was just a temporary sort of a solution or a fix, to get me into a better situation that I could deal with it. And often that's what business is about. You might need to do something to stop the issue that's going on, or strengthen where you're at the moment, so you can get yourself in a better position. Then you can move forward from there, which is really, really important. So hopefully that gave you some insights into looking at business as an adventure, and having the fact that it is an unknown, there are the unexpected. But what you can do is to really look for these tools. And one of the suggestions I'd make now is if there's something that's that creates stress for you, or something that you don't feel you can grapple with easily or well now, it may mean you're missing a tool. So see if you can locate a tool that can give you some predictability and some confidence in those sorts of situations. Thanks for listening. Look forward to catching you up in the next episode. Ciao for now.